When the child is actually coming into play, or somewhere around that point, or I just might keep y'all in the dark and let y'all know it wait till after the child is born.
You know, with all these lolcows, it only takes one day or even 15 seconds for them to be back on everyone's radar. And Chris is no exception. You just saw what he said. He done said he's having a child. Is it even possible for Chris to have a child? Well, given Chris's history, I'm doubting it, but I'm also not doubting it either considering recent events that have been happening in the Chris Chan story, some of which I didn't even cover at the time, but now are feeling increasingly relevant, given what he just said. So, let's go into why I think it could happen. Then I'll get into reasons I think it couldn't, and then I'm gonna give you my answer as to if I think he is or isn't having a kid. You know Chris Chan? You know, the man who did all that stuff to his mom? Well, now he's got a girlfriend. A Finnish girlfriend. Not Finnish as in finish line. Finnish as she's from Finland. And he's been learning Finnish for quite a while, as anyone who's been paying close attention to the Chris Chan story knows. And he also recently took a trip to Finland, which, as you can see right here in this picture, is, well, Chris Chan being in Finland. The trolls never give up on this. And what does this mean? Well, that girl he's been hanging out with, and somehow pulled and has a girlfriend now. Well, here's what I'm thinking. He went to Finland to ask her dad permission to marry her in Finnish. Now, does that mean that Chris did do the nasty with this woman and get her preggo? I don't know. And frankly, there's some supporting evidence for this, as she's been seen with him absolutely everywhere. You know, she's been seen with him at the mall. Ever since Chris Chan got out of jail, he's been seen with this woman quite a few times. Now, other supporting evidence to the fact that Chris is somewhat serious about having a kid was, I hate that I'm gonna reference this, but the Sonichu comics. You know, the comics that Chris made that we all get a laugh out of because of how poorly they're drawn, and really we don't like the comics all that much, but we kind of do because they're in relation to Chris, but not in the way that Chris wants anyone to. Well, if you read any of the Sonichu comics, you will know that he wants to have a baby girl and name her Crystal, of all things. Yeah, so this has been quite the lifelong obsession of Chris's, is to have not only a girlfriend, but also have a kid. Chris Chan's ultimate goal in life is to have a kid. He's always wanted to have a kid. He's been really weird about it for quite a while now, even before he was in jail, and, you know, frankly, I think him, getting down and dirty with his grandma like he did was him venting some kind of frustration. I don't want to talk about it, but, like, he had to have done that not just out of pleasure, but also wanting to vent some kind of frustration as to not being able to have a kid. I wonder how Barb's going to feel about this. Knowing Barb, she's probably not going to be alive too much longer to even realize that she's having a grandchild of any kind. Who knows with Barb? But also, Chris has been learning Finnish for a while. I don't know if anyone's tried to learn a second language, but it's not just something you do out of the blue. You either are doing it because you're made to do it in school, or you're doing it because you have some kind of intention to use that language in your day-to-day life. Like let's say if you were to move to Finland, or have a Finnish girlfriend, or are a weeb and want to not watch dubbed episodes of anime. You know who you people are. I'm watching you. But still, learning another language over the course of years isn't something you just randomly do. Chris was dedicated to doing this, and he went to Finland to prove how his dedication. That's not something you just do. So to me, this is signaling he's at least serious about this whole idea of having a child with this woman. Now let's get on to why I think he isn't. Now, the first reason why I think Chris isn't having a child, and let's look back at that footage and see what made him say this. Now, looking at the top of the screen, right about right there where I'm zoomed into, as you can see clearly, Chris was responding to a donation. A very trollish kind of donation. You know how Chris is on these streams. Really stupid weens give money to Chris and try to make him angry or rage out, and usually doesn't work. But this guy got something out of Chris that really concerned the hell out of the internet with this question. And because Chris didn't just randomly say this out of the blue, he was responding to some ween's $20 donated question. Really? You spent $20 to have Chris Chan look at your question? I'll never understand weens. But either way, this to me is at least somewhat of some proof that Chris isn't gonna have a kid, because Chris responds to donations all the day. I don't know if you watched any of Chris Chan streams, but when he responds to donations, most of the time, he's either lying out of his butt or just saying something that doesn't make any sense, just to be like, I respond to donations. Y'all can't say that I'm just sitting here playing video games and not being a good streamer. And he's like that a lot. Okay, so due to how this website works, I will have to let you use your little brain with context clues to understand what heart and spam actually mean when I'm saying them, because of, I don't want to get SD'd from the algae. You know what I mean? Huh? Okay, so let's get into it. Chris was on Heart for years, and even though he wasn't using it right, if anyone's watched that Geno Samuel documentary, you know how Chris was when he was trying to transition and become a woman. All the wild things he did, how improperly he was doing it just because he thought he knew best. But I'm pretty sure all those drugs still weren't good for your spam count, and they're probably lowered or really low. Does that mean he can't have kids of his own? Absolutely not. I'm pretty sure that there's people out there with low spam counts that still had kids even without trying. And I'm not gonna put those people down. Maybe Chris could do it. I'm not putting that aside. But what I'm not counting on, well, Chris willingly doing, is for the girl to use someone else's spam and them to raise it as their own. Now, this is something I don't think Chris would willingly do. Chris isn't the type of person to want to take care of someone else's kid. He really wants his own. So Chris, so it would probably have to be something the woman would do in secret. Just be like, hey Chris, enjoy your child. This is totally your kid. Not someone else's byproduct that I put in my body. But it's still something I wouldn't put aside happening. But regardless of that, Chris is probably gonna have a really hard time, getting it on or getting a kid to happen at all. And now we're gonna get to the conclusion. All right, so my conclusion, very optimistic one. Chris isn't having a kid, and let's be glad that this probably isn't gonna happen. And here's why I don't think it's gonna happen. Even if he's really trying to have a kid, he's probably gonna want to try to have his own child, and it's probably gonna be either not gonna happen and he's gonna give up, like Chris has done with a lot of things in his life, or he's just flat out lying. And I think that's a pretty solid conclusion. But in case, who knows, next summer down the line, let's say June of 2025 is probably when I think that kid could pop out the womb, or like Chris announces it. And well, I could eat my words. I'll probably put a disclaimer on this video, or make it private so that no one can see it, saying outdated, this happened, or something. But Chris Chan having a kid is not going to be good for that kid's life, and everyone knows that. And on that note, that's it for today. I went on vacation, and I didn't expect anything like this to happen while I was on vacation. And getting home from vacation to this, well, good to see that the lolcows are always up to something. Stay happy, stay healthy.